Hi everyone, this is the first talking head video that I am recording in my brand new loft. I have not gotten my lighting equipment yet. I don't have my audio equipment for addressing the acoustics, so we shall see how this turns out. I wanted to address an issue that I see comes up a lot for people, and this is specifically an issue for people who are emigrating from the United States to another country. It may be applicable for people who are emigrating from other countries other than the United States. I don't know, but I just want to give my perspective on my experiences regarding it. And this issue is how to keep your US phone number when you go to another country. And let's address why you would want to keep your original or previous phone number before you leave the country. Well, for one thing, if you're like me, I had my previous number for probably almost 15 years before I left the US, and that's how people know how to get in touch with me. So I did not want to be completely disconnected from all my previous contacts. But the real reason, the more important reason, is two-factor authentication. And so if you have a US bank, so for example, I was with Bank of America, they almost always use or strongly encourage you to use two-factor authentication to verify that you are indeed the person trying to log into your account. And so a lot of times that is done by a text message. And so you need to be able to receive those different text messages. For me, it wasn't just my banks, but it was a lot of my other different accounts, like a 401k account or an IRA account, different things like that, all had two-factor authentication set up. And so I needed to make sure that my US number still worked after I left Seattle. And so for me, it came down to two main choices based on what I was looking at. For going to Spain, it was either Tello or Google Voice. And I originally leaned towards Google Voice just because I use so many Google products. I use the Google Docs and Google Sheets, and I've got Gmail, and I have websites that are built by Google. And so I was very comfortable sticking with them. But I heard that Google Voice, since it is voice over IP, is not accepted by a lot of financial institutions in order to send text messages with those different PIN codes for two-factor authentication. So that's why I went with Tello. I didn't know anything about Tello other than hearing the name. I pretty much just signed up. It was very inexpensive, so that's one benefit of it. Might have been a little bit more expensive than Google Voice, but both of them were really inexpensive, especially compared to my phone plan that I had in the United States. So the cost for me at least wasn't a factor. One of the most important things to know about switching your phone from whoever you used in the US, I used to be on T-Mobile, is that you really should do it before you leave the United States. At least that is what I have heard. So then it becomes the question how soon before I leave should I switch my number? And my flight was originally for a Tuesday. I decided to switch my number over on a Friday just so that I would have a business day the following week in case things didn't work. But it went smoothly. It was really easy in order to switch the number over. It just took a few minutes for the process to happen. The one thing that I will mention about that is I've heard people have tried to switch their number after they've left the United States and they're not able to port the number from their previous carrier over to something like Tello, and then they end up stuck. And I think you almost have to go back to the United States in order to get that to work. I don't know. I did not have that issue, but again, my biggest recommendation is that if you are going to switch your number, do it before you leave the US. Or maybe you have a carrier that works in your destination country and you just want to keep whatever phone plan that you are using. Just be aware that it's probably a lot more expensive keeping your US carrier as opposed to switching to something like Tello. Now I want to mention a few different issues that I had, because when I got to Spain, it was a big learning curve in terms of getting my phone to work. So be aware that with Tello, that enables you to get text messages, but you can't make phone calls, and all the other different apps on your phone don't work. At least they did not for me. I had something really screwed up where if I was on wireless, my phone would work. If I was not on wireless, then my phone basically did not do anything. So the very first thing I did the next morning after I arrived was to go out to a phone carrier. I went with Vodafone and ended up getting a SIM card so I could use my phone when I was not on wireless. But one of the big things I had in the first few days was, am I getting text messages or not? And so I fuddled through a bunch of the different settings in my phone, just trying to get things to work. And so a few different things that I did that ended up working. Again, I'm not sure if this is perfect. Let me just take a look over at my notes. You want to make sure that you enable Wi-Fi calling. That is one of the things that helped me in order to get text messages to my old US phone number. And also E911. And if you're not familiar with E911, that's emergency 911. In other words, if you have to make a 911 call, which local department does it go to? Because there's not like a nationwide 911 number. And so I set it to my old Seattle address. I don't expect anyone will be calling 911 from my phone while I'm here in Spain. But the important thing is, until I set that E911, emergency 911 number, stuff was not working on my phone. So that is one of the requirements. Another thing is that you have your different apps for messages. So I have an iPhone, so I've got the iMessage app. Make sure that your messaging apps are set to use your US phone number. Make sure that that is turned on. And when I turned that on, all of a sudden I started getting a flood of messages, which gave me some reassurance. But I was like, hey, I think I'm still not receiving some of my messages. For some reason, I've never been able to get iMessage to use my Spain phone number that I got from Vodafone. Who knows, but I am getting my Spain text messages on my phone. So that is all that matters. And then one last setting that I turned on, which then enabled a whole bunch of other different messages to show up on my phone, is RCS. I didn't know what RCS is. It's Rich Communication Services. And so it enables a bunch of different things in text messages. For example, read receipts. And so you have to have RCS enabled for the phone number in order to receive messages, because it's a two-way thing. It's not like the sender is okay having RCS messages, but the receiver doesn't. Both the sender and the receiver have to have RCS enabled in order for those messages to transfer. And I remember I was like walking around, I was in the Ayuntamiento taking some photographs one day, about to go into Five Guys, and I was just sitting on a bench playing with settings and turned on RCS, and all of a sudden like 35 messages came into my phone. So again, that's another one that you'll want to have turned on. And regarding Spain phone numbers, again, you're going to need to get a SIM card or an eSIM card for having a Spain phone number or a local phone number for whatever country that you go to. I strongly recommend that you get a local phone number. But one of the interesting things about Spain is that everyone uses WhatsApp. I finally had to join the evil empire. People who know me know that I quit Facebook a long time ago, many years ago, and I've not been using any Facebook products. I'm not on Instagram, but I finally had to relent a few months ago and get WhatsApp. And I had WhatsApp tied to my US phone number. I then had to switch it over to my Spain phone number just because, again, everyone here in Spain uses WhatsApp, but people were really weirded out by getting WhatsApp messages from a US phone number, and so it's just a lot easier to set WhatsApp to use my Spain phone number. So anyhow, there you have it. Just a few different notes about changing your phone over so that you can get text messages from your US phone number in whatever country that you go to. Hope this helps.